one of the many and few bugs of VR. You gotta love VR. But please introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do.
Hello, my name is Seth Estrada, alias Mine Your Biz. I run the website mineyour.biz, which is a resource both for mining, blockchain, and then privacy-oriented technologies. And I also produce some content, though not as fancy. Yeah, not as fancy as the VR content. Yeah, not as fancy as the VR content that we're participating in today. It's but it's fun stuff. We talk about all sides of the cryptocurrency industry, but especially mining and privacy.
Mining and privacy. Okay, so I like that. And I mean, what I saw that you did some consultations. What exactly? I guess how do you consult? What do you do when you consult? Tell me a little bit about how you consult in the mining space.
Well, appreciate you asking. So as a consultant, what I do is, I mean, it's 360. So I'll have clients that'll ask about corporate structure and formation. I'm not a CPA. First off, I have to legally say that I'm not a CPA. But they'll ask about corporate formation. They'll ask about what kinds of equipment to purchase, about what the timeline is to profitability, so ROI or break-even point. And then they'll want to know from a very technical standpoint, what should I get? What coins should I mine? How long should I run these machines? When should I plan to retire these other machines? And frankly, there's not a degree or a credential out there that prepares somebody for that sort of thing. You kind of just have to have a really strong interest, and you have to have run the numbers, and you have to have gotten your hands dirty at building machines.
Okay, so how many machines have you built approximately between when you started and now?
Couple hundred.
Couple hundred? Okay, so I mean, you're pretty, I don't want to say you're an expert, but I'd say you're an expert. That's interesting. Okay, a couple hundred machines. So I guess, in your opinion, what is, for someone who's starting off in this space, what is the easiest way to get in?
I love that you asked that question. So when Ken Bosak asked me the same question about a year and a half ago, I said, I mean, everybody in this room, at least, or who's participating here in AltSpace VR, everybody here already has what they need to start. You've got a gaming quality PC that has a really good CPU in it, maybe a really good GPU in it. And if you have those two things, you can get started in mining today.
Oh, really? I mean, what would I run? What, like, would the, I guess my question is, what would I run? And then how would I run it? And then would the cost of mining, I guess electricity, how much electricity would it take up, be worth the cost that I'm getting, or the amount I'm getting back from the rewards?
You're asking all the right questions. So the first thing is that you're going to need to benchmark your equipment. The fastest way to do that is to download the NiceHash mining utility or benchmark utility from NiceHash. Now, I wouldn't say to mine for NiceHash because they're a hash rate aggregator, and they're kind of, I don't know, they're really kind of a bad influence in the mining scene, but they do have a really brilliant piece of software that'll tell you how efficient your hardware is at mining different things. So if you were to download the NiceHash mining utility, that would give you a sense for the real world numbers of what your gaming PC can do. And then after that, you can take those numbers and use a site such as whattomine.com, plug those numbers in, and it'll tell you which coins. Correct, whattomine.com.
Okay.
You can use those numbers, plug them in, and it'll tell you which coins are most profitable based on how well your hardware performs. So those would be the first couple of steps you could do to take a gaming rig and start getting it to do something. Now, in the mining calculators that you'll find on whattomine.com, you'll also be able to input the price for power, for electricity, where you live. There's some people, so for example, in LA that are paying almost 22 cents per kilowatt hour. Might not make any sense to you. Like, that number might not mean anything to you if you haven't looked at this closely before. But the breakdown of their monthly utility bill is 22 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity. And for those guys and gals, there's no way to be profitable at all. And so you have to know that number, first off. Grab your utility bill, figure out what the total breakdown is of price per kilowatt hour. And it should normally should normally be expressed in like a dollar value, like $0 and like 8 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents. Somewhere around there is going to be sort of the average. So anywhere between 10 and 12 cents is pretty typical. But there are some places where you can get it a little bit less expensive. And then other areas, like I mentioned before, like near Los Angeles, where you're going to get just like destroyed on the price of power and pay like 22 cents. So knowing that number is a big deal.
Interesting. Okay. So I see that Alex is also on here. Alex, can you jump up on stage? I think if you use your what button is this? Your B, is that B? You should be able to teleport on B or A, one of those two buttons. It should give you a blue thing. You might have to back up a little bit if you can hear me. But like you were saying, so
I'm tagging you in, Alex. Boom.
Are you
tag team? I'm just kidding. That does nothing.
You guys are funny.
No, the thing is,
can I like bend over and he can stand on my back or something?
So wait, what was it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is your headset not working?
No, my headset is not working. I had to put it on. For some reason, the VR was giving me an error.
Sigh. Oh wow. Okay, so the way you're gonna get up on stage is back up on your computer, back up a little bit, and then click the stage. Click a part of the stage where you want to land. That's all you do. You're gonna back up and click the stage. Boom. Yeah, I know. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to ask you a little bit of the same questions that I've been asking Seth. He's been wonderful here. So Alex, I guess, can you introduce yourself, first of all, and then tell me a little bit of what you do in the mining space?
Okay. My name is Alexander Morales. Also, you guys may have seen me. I'm on Walton Chain. I'm the U.S. rep for Walton Chain, which is an RFID.
Yeah, I'm going to amplify him. You can go ahead, Alex. I'm going to amplify you.
So can you guys hear me?
Why can't I? You don't have the megaphone access. Hold on. I'll give you the access to be a moderator, and you can actually amplify yourself. So if you go to your, do you have host tools? Did host tools appear on your screen?
Oh wait, yeah.
So yeah, there's going to be amplify my voice.
Okay.
It's going to be a third icon down.
Oh wait, I got a mic volume. Hello. Is that better?
That is better. But did you amplify your voice in the app? Inside Altspace?
Yeah, there's a little thing.
Okay, well you muted yourself. Unmute yourself. Do you have host tools? Alex?
There we go. I got it. Okay, so I go to host tools. How do I get there?
Do you have a button that says host tools? Is it available on your screen?
Yes. Okay, I see it.
Yes. Okay, so click it, and then there should be a megaphone button that says amplify my voice.
Okay, I see that.
Perfect. And then can you do me one more favor? Oh, where'd you go? Oh, you're off stage now. So come back. Gotta love VR, guys.
I'm coming. Yeah.
All right. Can you guys move a little towards me so the camera can see you?
By the way, this is a terrible audience. Alex just did a stage dive. Where were you guys? You're all fired.
Yeah, I know. You guys are all fired.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Apply for unemployment.
Apply for unemployment. Yeah,
this guy,
you should,
I
right?
like this guy. He's got the right idea.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So anyways, back to what I was saying. So I'm with Walton Chain USA, which is a company in the United States. I'm an autonomous node for Walton Chain, the main company, which is an RFID company, RFID blockchain company. And I've been mining now for a few years. I actually got introduced to it somewhere around early to mid 2017. I didn't really mine at the time, but then around 2017, 2018, I fell into Walton Chain, which was setting up a test net, which we could mine their testnet coins to get paid in real WTC and sell it out in the market if you wish. So I set up rigs. I've been mining with GPU. I'm a GPU miner. I don't really do ASICs. I really don't like them. I think that they're just too specific. You can't change them around. And eventually, if you haven't noticed, they do a lot of secret mining before they sell them off, and make the coin for themselves.
What
and
does
also,
that mean? What do you mean
after,
they do secret mining before they sell them off?
so, well, like let's say for Bitmain, for sure, for example, would design these incredible ASICs that are very efficient and high hash rates, but they would mine it for months and months, testing per se. That's what they said. They're testing, but they're testing hundreds and thousands.
I see. So it's adding lifetime to the mining. I see. I understand. Okay.
Yeah. So what they would do is they would mine some coins, and then they would sell it to the market. In which, by the time the end user gets it, the hash rate, the difficulty level gets increased so large that now it's not as profitable. So they'll say, let me give you an example. Bitmain, I remember they said they were selling, I can't remember which one it was, supposed to make $21 a day. And everybody's like, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And by the time it got to them, the hash rate went up so high, it was only like 3. So, you're paying $3,000 for the specific mining equipment, and it doesn't really make sense. With GPU, like, I don't know, Seth, do you remember when what's the privacy coin?
Haven. You're thinking Haven. That was the big one. I mean,
no, the Mimblewimble. What am I talking about?
Yes, Grin.
Grin. Remember when Grin came out? When I mined the heck out of it. All I did was move from Ethereum, mine Grin. I must have mined like about $500 of Grin in like 2 or 3 days and sold it off. Do you remember that, Seth?
I do. I had a light rig going on it, and it was like $40 that first day.
Yeah. So we sold it off, and then that's the best thing about GPU mining is that you can move it from whatever the next best thing is. You can move from one algorithm to another. All they do is use the different miners, and that way you can move it to where you want.
Hola,
There's a hand up there.
yo tengo 12 Bitcoin.
De veras.
They have 12 Bitcoin.
Sí, yo tengo 12.
Okay.
12 Bitcoin.
Y entonces.
Mining es muy estúpido.
Okay.
If you want to
Okay,
make
you
money,
sound like a
buy
troll.
Bitcoin. If you want to
Yeah,
make
it is a
money,
troll.
buy Bitcoin. Don't mine it. No, I do have 12 Bitcoin.
Yeah, but I don't mind
Okay.
Bitcoin.
Oh, but
I
you
think-
don't find mining to be
A waste of time?
productive.
Yes.
I can't
Why do you
even
find
who's
it a waste of
talking.
time?
Because
It's
you're not making any
Guy
money.
up here.
You're not making any money.
So that depends on the market. I mean, where
Not
how are
really.
you mining that you're not making money?
I mean, why would you want to mine in today's market? Maybe if you mined 10 years ago, okay.
What if you're mining with no electricity cost?
Then you're just a resource hog. Somebody's paying for that. Either your
And
parents
you're paying-
or the Jews.
Well, there's countries that offer free electricity, aren't there? Countries that offer free electricity, or I've also heard that companies benefit at what is it? Electricity companies sell miners electricity at a lower rate, something like that. I've heard
Yeah,
that before.
so this is
that
$2 a
yeah?
day.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So Annalise, like you're
Pardon me, I
mentioning,
farted.
there are definitely some subsidies that are available. That, by the way, this guy's obviously he's trying to waste your time. By the way, Annalise, just so
I
you know.
have 12 Bitcoin. I'm not lying. I'll tell you my Bitcoin public address.
Normally somebody has
Uh,
Bitcoin
doesn't matter. You can go ahead and sign a message apologizing to Annalise for bombing her event. Using that public address. If you don't know what that means, you
I
can
didn't-
GTFO.
I'm gonna buy
But-
all you out.
Cool, good job. So, Annalise, to answer your question, yeah, to answer your question, Annalise, as far as there being subsidies for certain kinds of territories and power,
Hola.
that's
amigo.
totally possible for some areas, in some areas, to buy surplus power from the utility because they have peak hours and then off-peak hours. So that's absolutely correct. Yeah, and I mean
Okay,
that kind of
interesting.
only makes sense when you're hitting scale, though.
Isn't mining like
When you're hitting
retarded?
scale, what do you mean by that? Hitting scale?
So meaning, as opposed to like, so Alex and I, we both kind of talked about
Why
in the
would you
GPU
avoid
space. Like we didn't necessarily, we didn't start with like warehouses or hangars full of GPUs. Starts with only a few GPUs and maybe a couple of rigs. But scale would be like, having your first dozen rigs, or then getting to the first 100 or 200 rigs, where you're consuming so much power that that you'll
Fucking retarded.
notice
Mining's for retards.
every like
That's a
every
fact.
like cent or two
You want
that
Okay,
you
money,
reduce.
buy
Okay.
stocks. You dumb retard. Fucking nigger. Fucking ass
Okay.
retard.
All right.
Fucking...
Yeah, I warned you, Annalise. It was obvious. Yeah, just
Well,
kick the
I
can.
don't have. I decided to let it be a free event and like let people kind of walk around and talk. Usually, I have it where everyone's muted, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to like let people, exist. But unfortunately, it's considered it's a public event on Altspace, so anyone can come in if they didn't RSVP. I let it just be because there's times that people come in and they actually are interested, but then you get people like that, and here we are.
Sure. Yeah, and here's the
What I
thing.
should
I mean,
do is put a stage blocker on, but you guys go ahead. I'll put a stage blocker on so nobody comes and bothers us.
okay,
You can continue.
okay.
Well, one of the things that, and Seth will probably attest to this, is for GPU mining, one of the things that I do is when I buy the GPUs for mining, once they lived out their life, where I feel like it's gonna, they're not as profitable as before, because right now I'm selling most of my 1080 Ti's, 1060s, 1080s, 1070s, 1070 Ti's, and buying 5700s because they're very efficient. And the reason that we buy those is once we're done with them, we can sell them to the gamers. And they're very liquid. You can sell them quickly. Isn't that true, Seth?
Absolutely. Yeah, as opposed to like you mentioned before, ASICs. I think Alex and I are we're both very similar in our approach and opinion of that type of equipment. With GPUs, there are some kinds of GPUs also that are made specifically for mining, and they don't have the characteristics that would let you resell them. So as somebody who's just starting out, or somebody that's kind of at the mid scale, only dealing with a few GPUs or a few rigs. Oh,
you flew.
I did. Yeah, I'm way out here.
All right, come back. Come on back.
I got kicked off stage. I don't even know how.
Yeah. I don't know.
That is
Actually,
crazy.
hold on. I know how. Where are you? There you are.
Yeah.
He's a
Hold on. Give me a
spectator.
second.
Yeah.
Sorry. I put the stage blocker on, and I didn't give you host access. That's why you got kicked off. So give me a second here.
They kicked you off stage already?
I know,
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah, we didn't like them. We didn't like them. Not at all.
You had one job. One job.
Yeah.
One job. Alrighty, you should be able to get on stage. Get back up here, man.
Boom.
There you go. All right, as you were saying, Seth.
So I'm agreeing with Alex. Yeah, there's specific characteristics that you want to look for, and that is good resale value in GPUs. And there are some that are better than others. So if you're just getting started with mining, if you're considering it now, then it's not that you want to think of like, oh, what would happen? What will I do if I fail at mining? As much as what will happen when I just want to transition from this type of mining back into upgrades, or after I've gotten some profit, can I resell this equipment? That's a good question to ask yourself.
And you'd be surprised also as well. When I sold all these, I sold like in the last week 6 1070 Ti's, which are great for gaming. And I asked them, "Do you guys mine?" And not one mine. So if you're a gamer already, why would you not have the machine not only secure the network? A 1070 Ti can make you about 70 cents a day. You're like, oh, 70 cents, yeah, but over a year, that becomes some serious cash.
Yeah, well, and also when you're not gaming, maybe you're a diehard gamer. Maybe you're like way into it. You play a few hours a day, but let's be real, you're not going to play more than like 4-6 hours a day, maybe at the outside max. You got all the rest of those, the remainder of those 24 hours out of the day that you can just let it mine.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just like, oh, am I muted? I always do that. I always talk and I forget to mute. But for some reason, it fixed. It was behind me. Okay. So anyways, so you mentioned a few things at the beginning, and I kind of want to know a little more about that. And like you said, if you have a GPU, a fast running computer, you can get into mining basically now, immediately. You mentioned NiceHash, and then you mentioned one more website, which I forgot the name of, but I definitely the name of that website. And you to see, I guess, the input and the output of what you're doing. So I guess what are the minimum specs? Because I know some people here they're on a VR headset instead of having an actual computer, but I guess what are the minimum specs that you should have if you're gonna get into this for a computer, if I was to use my computer, what are like the minimum baseline?
Okay, so I'm gonna bounce your first questions. I'm gonna bounce off of Alex just to kind of get his seal of approval here, but just because I know he's judging me, he's secretly judging me right now because you mentioned Nice Hash. So I'm gonna redeem myself here.
I've been told that that's one that is easy to get into, but it's not the best. Is that right?
That's accurate. So I'm going to just recap really fast for the benefit. I feel like I have to like defend my reputation here with Alex on stage.
Defend my reputation.
but with
I didn't know you had one.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. It's like making plans. I'm hearing God laugh somewhere. Yeah. So as far as Nice Hash, my recommendation is that people just use the benchmarking suite from Nice Hash. Because it's very easy, right? To just get a quick, solid sense for what your current rig can do. If you're a gamer and you're already on Windows, just get a sense for what it can do. And the Nice Hash benchmarking suite will do that for you fast, right? You can let it run through all of the major algorithms, and then it'll just tell you, like it's not, these aren't idealized numbers. These are real world numbers that your rig will actually produce for you. So use the Nice Hash benchmarking utility first. Then plug those numbers into whattomine.com, not because it's perfect or because it'll tell you everything, but because it will tell you the most profitable, most liquid coins today.
What is this? Okay, so what to mine in order to get most liquid / profitable coins, and then whether I use Nice Hash or something else, that would be like the way to go.
Yes, absolutely. In my opinion, what to mine, it doesn't have the greatest variety of coins, but generally speaking, the profitability that it shows you is accurate, including the liquidity and ROI, all of the schedules. If you want to tell it, if you want to ask it how long it'll take you to earn back a given equipment purchase, generally speaking, their algorithms and their numbers are very, very precise.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things for Nice Hash that I would have to agree with him, especially for a gamer, there's a neat little option. I've used Nice Hash for some of my rigs when I think things weren't profitable at the time. And the good thing about Nice Hash, when it mines, it converts it to Bitcoin automatically. So you don't have to worry about sending. Cool. Yeah, you don't have to send it to the exchanges and then you lose the exchange, how much you would lose. It'll go straight into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the payout. Now, having said that, also when you're a gamer, there's a neat little option with Nice Hash that you click and it says when you're not using the computer and it's idle for a certain amount of money, it starts a certain amount of time, it starts mining. As soon as you become active, it gets off the Nice Hash. Pretty neat. You've seen that, right, Seth?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's built into the utility. But that same desktop miner for Windows can be used as a benchmarking utility. And that's why I say, to start there. You'll have options afterwards after you know what it can do.
Right. So, quick question: what is the best, country to actually mine in? Because there's a lot of controversy again about mining here in the U.S. Versus somewhere else. What is the best country? Because I know it's either hey, you can get cheaper electricity, or the other issue is can their grid run your equipment with the circuit and the wattage and all that. So I guess which one's the ideal place, because it's huge in the Asian market.
Yeah, so I'm gonna can I propose we do something fun here on the count of 3? Maybe Alex and I can say our favorite country at the same time. 1,
Go for it.
2, 3. Kazakhstan.
Venezuela.
Okay.
That was my second.
Venezuela. I've heard Venezuela's is good to mine. Kazakhstan. I don't know anything about Kazakhstan. Not one thing.
Well, it's a different game, frankly, in Kazakhstan. Like you gotta know people, you gotta know politicians, you gotta grease some palms.
I see.
But it's way good if you know the people. Venezuela's not too dissimilar though. You gotta have family or friends.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that he was buying a bunch of those ant miners, the old ones, and I'm like, wait a minute, those things aren't doing anything. You can't do anything with them. They're actually going to the negative with how much electricity is, even at a discount. No, I'm just shipping them all out to Venezuela. I've got tons of buyers over there, just like that. It's like you said, you gotta know someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Yeah, Alex, I gotta ask, man. That's not Vlad, is it?
No.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so to really get into the game, you got to know somebody. And I've heard that mining has become less of something to do and more of an industry. It's something that's become industrialized. And I guess for reasons where people say, hey, you know, it's not so profitable, you either have a company off it or you're somewhere where it's affordable and you're trying to start a business off it. Do you guys get that sentiment?
That's
More or less.
kind of. I mean, yeah, I think that the truth is kind of in between, right? It's like anything where there's a profit motive or there's any kind of profit to be earned, it's going to become industrialized, right? By people who see the profit margin. And there's enough
Right.
I mean, there's enough profit that when you have players that have, $5 million of money idle in their portfolio and they see the opportunity, they think they've captured a vision of crypto. I mean, there's that much profit between Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the major networks. There's that much profit for them to start earning that back over time. So you do get people who are interested in putting a lot of money into it and treating it like more than a hobby. But on the flip side, there's still absolutely an opportunity for the person who's approaching it as a hobbyist.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, with us, it always starts, when we begin with this, I'm only going to put one GPU. 100 GPUs later.
It's
Is that
accurate.
true?
Yeah.
That's funny. How many houses do you think have burned down from like mining fires?
Thankfully, houses, not many, because residential codes require certain kinds of safeguards. Thankfully, though,
Okay.
but warehouses, oh my gosh, a friend of mine actually had a transformer blow right outside of their building where they were mining, and it had this
Yikes.
big old high voltage wire just like flopping around in the air because the transformer literally
That's
exploded.
scary. I've had my transformer explode behind my house, but I mean, it's like, it's a little transformer on a pole. It's nothing crazy. And you hear it go boom and you hear it spark, but it's like, it powers like maybe 2 houses back. So it wasn't anything crazy, but like, I can't imagine an industrial transformer just like blowing up. Like that must be scary.
Oh, theirs was massive. Yeah, they had like a, gosh, what was it? Some kind of a literal meat market on the other side of the building. So they had like giant walk-in freezers and stuff, and then they had their mining rigs with probably a few hundred, about 500 GPU rigs and a few dozen ASICs. They had a lot of power going through this transformer, so it was big, and when it popped, everybody knew about it.
Yeah, you're not going to see
No,
a lot of fires in residential locations because that's not really the optimal place to put a big mining farm. The electricity is too expensive. The only way you could do it is by going to warehouses and getting a commercial bulk rate. Is that correct, Seth?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, residentially, like we mentioned earlier in the conversation, that 22 cents per kilowatt hour that some California residents are just getting destroyed by, that's residentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in the industrial or the commercial spaces. But
Okay.
you
Yeah,
go
no,
out to
I
those.
figured because I mean, whenever you get into the industrial space, into the commercial space, pricing is different. Everything's in bulk. It's a completely different ballpark. Like I don't know if you guys have ever driven by a school. Schools their electricity is on all the time, and it makes you think how much money are they paying in electricity that their electricity is running through the summer when kids are not even there. So I'm just like, okay, something unknown to me must be happening that they can afford to do that, but people are saying that mining is unsustainable. And I'm going to ricochet that into my next question regarding mining by 2140. So we all know that there is a finite amount of Bitcoin, and whenever we get there, well, technically because of the happening and because everything continues to split, people say that Bitcoin will never actually cease to exist, like in terms of mining new Bitcoin. Like there is 21 million Bitcoin, but every happening since it continues to have a digit, there's going to be like some reserve, which is what I've heard. I guess as we get closer to that date, how does the incentive and the I was going to say hardity. That's not a word. How hard it is to continue to mine as we get there. I know, right?
That's pretty edgy there too.
I like that word.
Hardity.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
Yeah, no,
that's a good word.
Yeah, it's. I mean, depending on which side of crypto Twitter you're on, I think that could trend as a hashtag. But, right, I'm just saying, we all know people in this space. But
oh, yeah.
as far as it being a thing, as far as there being proper incentives that align all the way through to 2140, I think that the prevailing theory is that Bitcoin as a deflationary currency will continue to rise in value, such that even with new coin issuance decreasing, there's always going to be incentive. We don't know what that's actually going to look like. That's a lifetime away, right? All of us are going to be dead and gone by the time it gets there. So
that's true. So realistically speaking, what about 30 years from now? 30 years from now, we'll go through, what is that, 4 or 5 more happenings, I think, something like that. Like, how is that going to look? Because I guess, like you said, it's going to rise in value. Do we think it will continue to rise in value at the rate that we expect? Obviously, this is all speculation, but somebody had pointed out in order to have Bitcoin be like, I think it was like $100,000, we needed some billion, almost $1 trillion in like market liquidity circulating, like at a consistent rate. Is that something you see? Based off the timeline, based off what we've seen so far, like, is that something you think will continue to go forth? Do you think that Bitcoin will actually be sustainable 30 years from now?
That's a brilliant question. Alex, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, the price of Bitcoin, if it's more expensive to mine it than it is the value, then nobody's going to mine it. So it has to go up. And like you said, the deflationary purpose of it is for it to less and less Bitcoin to be made more scarce. Remember, let's say, for instance, gold. Everybody likes to use gold as an example for Bitcoin. No, there is no finite amount of gold. They just find another amount of gold, and that makes it, that is valuable. But Bitcoin is finite at 21 billion. It is going to continue on to the, what was the year again? 2150, right? Is that the correct year?
2140, yeah. Close.
2140. Yeah. So, but that's going to have to continue in value. Now, one thing is we don't know what may or may not replace Bitcoin. I think where Bitcoin is going to be there, it's great for stored value. It's just slow. So it'll be great for, for large transactions that it's not time sensitive. I mean, I remember when the first one was CompuServe, and all these, and AOL, and now they're non-existent. Bitcoin's the first one. It's the one that started in this space. But as far as
that's a really good point you brought up. I kind of want to like throw something in there into your explanation, but you brought up AOL, and AOL was one of the first internet companies around, and eventually AOL got phased out to the point where I think Yahoo owns them now. So it was about do you think that Bitcoin will continue to be king of the hill as time progresses? 1, and then 2, oh God. Let's start there. Let's just start king of the hill. It'll come back to me.
Awesome. Yeah. So in my opinion, yes, I very much agree with Alex that it does have the potential to become something of it's currently a de facto reserve currency within crypto. When you erase stablecoins from the landscape of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is the reserve currency. And it does, I think, have a real potential to become that in the real world among potentially even larger nation states and sovereign entities. Is it going to be? I mean, who knows? Like, I don't know if anybody has a crystal ball that can show whether or not that's going to happen. I just know that, in my opinion, it has the potential to be that if nation states chose now to use some of the financial liquidity that they have with all this, money printing they're doing. If they chose to, they could buy the market cap of Bitcoin, 100 times over, right? Easily.
Right.
And they could absorb it into their system, and then that would give them the opportunity to work with it as the reserve currency. Like, they could totally do that. That wouldn't give them control over it. Hash rate gives control over validation, right, and transactions and everything else. But I think there really is the possibility that Bitcoin could maintain that lead position. But like Alex said, we know it's slow. Like, you brought up AOL. Maybe Alex will remember this too. It had a nickname back in the 90s. It was America Online, right? That's what AOL stands for. Its nickname back
Yeah,
in the
I remember
90s was
that.
America on Hold because it was slow,
That's
and
funny.
if you tried to phone call somebody and they had their modem going, you couldn't get through. But Bitcoin
Right.
is very much the same. Yeah,
Dial-up.
right.
Oh man,
Actually,
you guys remember dial-up?
I was an ISP. I don't know if you guys knew that.
You're what? One more time?
I was an internet service provider. I actually had the modems
Oh,
in
were you?
my office.
Oh,
Yeah, I had a
cool.
T1 coming in, and yeah, it was a business that I did it when I was in my 20s. It was fun, you know. But
Oh.
one of the things, and what I want to go back to what he was saying is, and this is actually a nice little test, and I want to see everybody should do this test. Go and ask anybody over 40 if they rather have, and let me say 30, gold or Bitcoin. Ask anybody between 30 and 20 if they rather have gold or Bitcoin. And then go from anybody less than 20 and ask them if they would have gold or Bitcoin. And anybody under 20, I guarantee you would say Bitcoin. Almost for sure. So
I have
that
actually
brings,
tested that out. That is a valid theory. I've tested that out before. Just because they see Bitcoin on the news and they hear about it when it's rising and the bubble and whenever Bitcoin actually makes moves, that's what they're concerned about. So that is a valid theory. But if you guys want to test that out, try it out.
yeah, I mean, my kids would rather have Bitcoin. My kids right here, would you rather have Bitcoin or gold? Bitcoin. Yep.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, no,
So-
Alex, same here. My teenager, he's been asking me a while, like, hey, how do I buy Bitcoin anonymously? And I can
Oh,
neither
really?
confirm nor deny that we have purchased it, but he's been asking.
That's funny. So my second part of the question to my original question was, a lot of people that say that mining is going to get replaced. I don't know whether that is true or not. I've heard proof of stake. I've heard, I think, one or two other methods. What do you guys think about this? I know mining is something that's fundamentally written into the ecosystem of Bitcoin. It's in the white paper. But, there's people who argue, like Alex said, Bitcoin is slow. Should we expand horizontally rather than vertically and increase block sizes and adjust Bitcoin? And then there's some people that say, hey, let's do Bitcoin Core, let's do the Lightning Network. Sorry. So will mining actually get replaced? Is that accurate, and can it get replaced by proof of stake or other protocols?
These are great questions. I just want to make clear that the question of proof of work being replaced by proof of stake, it's kind of decoupled from the question of transaction throughput and the speed of Bitcoin, because faster consensus doesn't always equal faster throughput. So just to answer the question of proof of work versus proof of stake or proof of capacity or proof of proof, which is literally a thing out there if you've heard that one making the rounds. But there's so many different ways to achieve consensus within a blockchain. Mining, as we know it today, is primarily proof of work, but you can also call proof of stake a form of mining. And in my opinion, it's kind of helpful to look at mining as all of the different types of consensus in which you contribute your computer as an individual for the benefit of the network, whether it's proof of work, proof of stake, or running a masternode.
That's correct. One of the
Forgot
things
to mute yourself. Alex, go ahead.
So one of the things is, for those who follow me, they know that I mine Ethereum and things like Zcash. Now I really like masternodes. I have 2 Zcash supernodes, which are about 50,000 coins. I also have enough Ethereum to do one of the validators. I've been mining that for a while. And with Ethereum, so what they're going to do once Ethereum 2.0 comes out, they already said that Ethereum 1 is going to run parallel with it for years. It has to, because it still has the transactions on there. It still has the coin. So that's going to be it's going to be like a shard. It's going to be on the side running parallel with that. So that's why I'm buying more mining cards, because I don't mind that when it's that. Or if once POS comes in, proof of stake is totally in, and they remove the proof of work, then I'll just move it to Ethereum Classic or whatever other Ethereum type of coin algorithm that they have at the time. So I'm a big proponent from masternodes. I like them. I have several all over, different smaller ones too as well, because all you do is you stake your masternode, you stake the amount of coin required for the masternodes. That locks them up, which causes scarcity and also brings up the value.
Yeah. That said, I mean, there are some coins that in the past, for whatever reason, whether it's been because they've had weak leadership or because their market offering is or their product offering is not particularly well received, that occasionally, even though they have masternodes that are in production and they have a lot of coins that are being bound up in these masternodes and in proof of stake, that the value of the coin still goes down, and it goes down so fast that it keeps masternode operators, the individuals like Alex or me or Annalise like you getting into running a masternode. It keeps us from being able to pay the bills for running those masternodes profitably. So all of this stuff is speculative. It's worth repeating, right, all day. None of this is financial advice, and it does have some risk.
Okay. So I see you guys are mining different things, doing different things, but out of everything that's out there, I guess, and based off your setup, because there's different setup for efficiency, obviously, but based on what you guys have right now, what is something you would recommend to mine and why?
Ooh. Alex, what you got?
I'm mining Ethereum and ZIL. How about you?
So when I mine Ethereum, and then I mine privacy coins. So the privacy coins that I like to mine are crypto notes such as Haven, also BitTube, Monero, when I have a piece of equipment that it makes sense to mine it on, which currently it doesn't, not on GPUs. But crypto notes, because they're always private by default.
Crypto notes. Okay.
Are you mining Ethereum now?
I'm not mining Ethereum right now. I'm not mining anything at home right now. Yeah.
Okay, no, because one of the things that's interesting is the ZIL. You could dual mine it with Ethereum. It's pretty interesting how it works. Have you seen that, Seth?
Well, dual mining is something that's been available for a while. What is the algorithm that ZIL uses?
No. It's a F-hash. It's not really dual mining. It's pretty interesting. The way they did it, very smart. They didn't want to compete with those who have Ethereum. So what they do is you mine Ethereum, and then for 2 or 3 minutes out of every hour, it switches over to mining ZIL. Only 2 minutes, everybody at the same time, and then goes right back to Ethereum. And it's pretty interesting. It's profitable.
Huh. Okay, but it's not like merge mining.
No, it is not. I know you're thinking like Ethereum and whatever other ones that we used to do, like Sia coin or stuff like that. No.
So I'm asking about merge mining because so the crypto note spec, so Monero, Bitcoin, Bullberry, others, the crypto note spec in the original white paper, it gave provision for merge mining, meaning that you might have a mining rig that is mining only one algorithm, but you'd be rewarded by 2 separate coins for the same proof of work. Or in some cases, 3. With Kryptonite, for example, the Kryptonite ASICs, and I mean, that's not our scene, Alex, the ASICs, but the Kryptonite ASICs today, there are some pools that they'll do merge mining for you, and you can be rewarded in up to 3 different coins for contributing proof of work with one machine. So that's why I was asking about merge mining. It is a different thing. With Ethereum, they call that dual mining, where you can run 2 algorithms at the same time because the hardware isn't being used to its fullest.
No, not in this
That's
case.
interesting.
This one actually stops mining Ethereum, jumps onto ZIL for 2 minutes. It's different. And then once they say, okay, that's enough, you jump right back onto Ethereum. So it is only mining 1 at a time.
Okay, whoa.
That's really interesting. I'm going to open up the floor for questions in just a second. We're actually going to cut to a commercial break. It's 7:10 here. So if everybody wants to pay attention to the screen in just a second, we will have our commercial break. And then after that, I will open up the floor. If you guys have any questions, to go ahead and ask them.
I'm not going to lie. The other Abby had me kind of like freaked out.
Yeah, it was sorry, let me get my headset here because it was here. Yeah, it kind of my headset kind of bugged out on me, so I was like, all right, let me go to my laptop because I'm not sure what's happening. So let me just grab my headset here, but I'm going to open the floor for questions anyways. So I'm going to allow everyone to raise their hand for participation. So just raise your hand. You guys are all or I think you're unmuted. You're all unmute you because I muted. Okay, so I got V-Dog first. V-Dog, go ahead. You're amplified.
Okay, can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So to get back to one of the questions we had early on in the panel, does it make sense to mine due to energy costs around the world? So one of the trends, at least in industrial mining, that I have heard of happening is behind the meter mining, meaning that when you partner up with some sort of energy provider, say whatever power plant you have, and before the electricity that is produced by the plant enters the network, actually mining is applied as kind of part of the power plant's balance sheet, something like this. I heard that this is happening in New York, and I'm wondering if you guys have any insights as to if this is going to become a global trend, because I believe this is a great way to actually make Bitcoin mining or any kind of mining for proof of work long-term sustainable if we actually just use green energy source. Yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah, and behind the meter, as far as utilizing more green energy resources, I can see this definitely being the case in states where there's more of a green energy initiative or where there are subsidies for hydroelectric. Absolutely, 100%. In some states where there's additional waste in energy production or energy exploration, and specifically natural gas flaring or natural gas operations, I think we're going to see that there's that the trend is just a little bit different. But very similarly with an eye towards conservation, right? Making sure there's really high efficiency. Right now in the southern states where there's a lot of natural gas that is just being flared, right? It's just being burned into the air. And it's not because there's any kind of nefarious scheme, right, in the oil and gas industry, but just because they can't capture it efficiently and they can't capture it fast enough. There are some mining operations in those areas where there's effort now being made to do mining on site right there. So instead of doing natural gas flaring, they're mining right there at the point of energy capture. So I think you're right.
I think hydroelectric's going to be an interesting alternative as well too. Have you seen for those who haven't followed, maybe you can follow Voskcoin. Have you seen the latest video, Seth, on the hydroelectric? That's pretty interesting.
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you live like near a river, they have this hydroelectric kind of like the end user, which it'll harness the power of the river. It kind of like goes on the side. It's an interesting concept. So you can have your own hydroelectric running about. I think some of them run about 5 or 10 kilowatts, which is decent. But I think that's going to be interesting for those who live up north on the side of a mountain or a river or something like that. I think that's going to start coming out.
Yeah, I think you're right. For the hobbyist miner especially, or the at-home miner that's getting started with their first couple of rigs, that would totally do it.
Yep.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, let me see if anyone has any more questions. Guys, just raise your hand. You guys have the ability to raise your hand, and I will allow you to participate. It looks like I want to participate. I accidentally clicked the button. Just kidding. I will not participate. Okay, do you have any more questions, guys? Let me make sure there's no questions in the live stream before we continue. Let me just double check here.
Mm-hmm.
No, Tim, any live stream questions? No.
All right, so it looks like we are. Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Looks like we're good on the live stream. So those are all the questions that we had. Is there anything you guys would like to say after?
Yeah. Alex, what have you got?
Yeah, so for those going to be the hobbyists, I think this will be a good time. I think GPU mining is going to come back. That's why I'm investing more time and effort and money into it, because in the culture of this type of this technology is for it to be not centralized, and as a coin, it's more centralized with basic miners, just like you saw with RandomX going to CPU, just like when you saw Ethereum change. I think they changed once to avoid the ASICs. You saw now we have Comp, which is the Raven coin. It changed several times. In the spirit of cryptocurrency, we want to keep it decentralized, but with ASICs, and those who don't know Bitcoin, over 50% is being mined out of China. So they really have more than 51% of the hash rate. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but I'm pretty sure it still is. So technically, they can really, influence that system. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's definitely wherever the hash rate is, that's where the control of the network is. And I agree with Alex largely that GPU mining for the at-home user, literally anybody who's here interested in this event, you can participate. I'm just going to go back, bring this full circle, Annalise, that anybody who's here, you probably have the necessary components to contribute to cryptocurrency mining, even if it's just in your spare time with spare computer cycles that are lying around. And every little bit counts. You help break up the monopolies of well, even the countries that Alex and I favor, right? So like Venezuela, areas that have high hydroelectric subsidies in Central and South America, you do your part to decentralize these networks by mining on a GPU. If I may also, just as an outro, kind of a shout out, part of what I do at mineyour.biz is media and education that's kind of targeted towards cryptocurrency mining for the hobbyist and the mid-scale miner, but then also privacy tech. A lot of this stuff, I kind of couch my understanding of cryptocurrency mining and the importance of cryptocurrency mining in the concept of sovereignty and individual liberty, right? So when you're the first person to receive a block reward on a cryptocurrency network, you increase your privacy. Sovereign governments, the IRS, other entities, I'm not suggesting that we try to hide from them at all. I'm just saying that you have options in terms of how you approach them if you're the first person to receive the block reward. And then you obviously render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, but that's up to you after that point. But mineyour.biz, we talk a lot about privacy and cryptocurrency mining as a means of empowering individuals.
Awesome. Okay, so you mentioned mineyour.biz, but I guess Alex, where can people find you? And please say your social media stuff too, so people can find you guys.
Okay, for me, you can find me on Twitter at Walton Chain USA or under Crypto Alex USA, either one. You find me there, and then you'll see all the links to all my other YouTube and other social media.
Yeah, and for me, mineyour.biz is sort of the hub. You can find all of the social media following from there. But if you're on Twitter and you want to look me up, it is Seth Estrada. I'm cleverly hidden under my full name.
Yeah, very, very, very clever. And you sell some really nice gators.
That's true. We got some good merch at the store, and we accept crypto there.
Merch.
Awesome. I'll definitely check it out. All right, guys. So you heard it here first. If you guys are interested in watching any part of this show, this has been live streamed to the bitsandtokens.com YouTube page. You can either go on bitsandtokens.com and watch the video, or you can go on YouTube and find a recap of this video because it is there. Without further ado, I want to thank everyone for coming out to Do You Mind?